Sunday school program continues. Today we're going to talk about Genesis chapter 43. And in Genesis chapter 43, we're going to see Joseph's brother's second visit to Egypt to buy more food. So before we delve into the chapter, they have explained to their dad how the man that sold the food to them demanded they take their youngest brother along. And their dad was disputing that fact. He didn't really want to let go of Benjamin because he said, I have lost his brother. That was Joseph. And again, you guys have left Simeon in custody. And then if you take Benjamin alone, it's going to be 3 of my sons. And in my old age, I will go to the grave because of disappointment, heartbreak. And they continued talking to him. He wouldn't listen. So when the food finished, their dad started urging them to go back to Egypt to go get more food. And their response to him was, now in verse 2 of Genesis 43. So when they had eaten all the grain they had brought from Egypt, their father said to them, go back and buy us a little more food. But Judah said to him, the man warned us solemnly, you will not see my face again unless your brother is with you. So that was the response of Judah to him. The man did told us, if you don't bring your youngest brother here, you will not see my face. Let alone you will buy food from here. So let's continue and see what happened. In verse 5, if you will not send him, we will not go down. Because the man said to us, you will not see my face again, unless your brother is with you. So in verse 6, Israel asks, why did you bring this trouble on me by telling the man you had another brother? So he thought they just, spoke about Benjamin to the man, the governor that sold them food in Egypt. But they replied, they said, the man questioned us closely about ourselves and our family. So you see, that was the reason. Is your father still living? He asked. He asked us, do you have another brother? We simply answered these questions. How were we to know? He will say, bring your brother down here. So you see, they explained to their dad the reason why they came about talking about themselves deeply. Because in the previous chapter, when they first went to buy food, the man accused them of being spies. So they wanted to tell him much about themselves that he would believe that they are innocent. They are not spies. And in verse 10, as it is, if we had not delayed, we could have gone and returned twice. This is what they are still telling their dad. In verse 11, then their father Israel said to them, if it must be, then do this. Put the best products of the land in your bags, and take them down to the man as a gift. A little balm, a little honey, some spices and myrrh, some pistachio, nuts and almonds. Take double the amount of silver with you, for you must return the silver that was put back into the mouth of your sacks. Perhaps it was a mistake. So you see that their dad asked that they take some gifts along, the money that was placed back into their sacks to return it, and they take another money along to go pay for the food they are going to go buy now this second time. So in verse 14, and may God Almighty grant you mercy before the man, so that he will let your other brother and Benjamin come back with you. As for me, if I am bereaved, I am bereaved. So Dad finally gave up. Jacob finally gave up. He decided to give Benjamin to them to go with. And he said, if you go, he lets Simeon to come back with you guys and Benjamin. So be it. If he doesn't, if I am bereaved of all my sons that has been taken away, then so be it. So that was what he did, and he let them to go. In verse 16, when Joseph saw Benjamin with them, he said to the steward of his house, "Take these men to my house, slaughter an animal and prepare a meal. They are to eat with me at noon." So Joseph gave instructions to his servants. The minute he saw Benjamin with the brothers, 11 of them came to buy food. So Joseph gave instructions that they should go prepare food, and they should let these men go eat with him in his own house. In verse 18, now the men were frightened when they were taken to his house. They thought, "We were brought here because of the silver that was put back into our sacks the first time. He wants to attack us and overpower us and seize us as slaves and take our donkeys." So this is what they were talking to themselves. Why is this man taking us to his personal home? And he wants to attack us, seize our donkeys. This is the reason. So they went up to Joseph's steward and spoke to him at the entrance of the house. "We beg your pardon, our lord," they said. "We came down here the first time to buy food. But at the place where we stopped for the night, we opened our sacks and each of us found his silver, the exact weight in the mouth of his sack. So we have brought it back with us. We have also brought additional silver with us to buy food. We don't know who put our silver in our sacks." So you see, they decided to talk to this steward because they are the ones Joseph instructed to do things. So they knew the steward might, have an idea about that. But just listen what the steward responded to. In verse 23, "It's all right," he said. "Don't be afraid. Your God, the God of your father, has given you treasure in your sacks. I received your silver." Then he brought Simeon out to them. So you see, the steward told them, "Your gods have given you treasure. If you found your silver in your sacks back, I have received your silver you brought." So he brought Simeon that was left in custody to them. The steward took the men into Joseph's house, gave them water to drink, to wash their feet, and provide food for their donkeys. They prepared their gifts for Joseph's arrival at noon, because they had heard that they were to eat at Joseph's house. When Joseph came home, they presented to him the gifts they had brought to him in the house, and they bowed down before him to the ground. They are still bowing down. This was the dream Joseph dreamt, and they grew jealous of him. But it's still happening, it's still manifesting. You see, what God has destined for anybody, no man can stop it. You can delay it, you can drag it, but when the time is ripe to manifest in that person's life, it will surely come to pass. This is what is happening now. All the 2 dreams Joseph dreamt when he was a boy in his father's house, they were binding sheaves in the field with his brothers, and his own sheaf stood upright, and their 11 sheaves came bowing down to him. The other time he had a second dream, the moon, the sun, and the 11 stars came bowing down to him. Even his dad was wondering, "What do you mean? Do you want to say me, your mom, and your brothers will bow down to you?" And he rebuked him. But because he was an elderly man, he was experienced, he kept thinking about that dream. But the brothers never gave it a second thought. They only kept being jealous and jealous and jealous until they planned to take his life. But thank God, 2 of them stood against that they shouldn't spill his blood, lest his blood will come haunting him. So they decided to sell him into slavery. meaning out of our family, out with your dream of you becoming great. But look at it now. They are the one coming to find him in his greatness, and they kept on bowing down, prostrating. They lie flat on the ground before him to pay respect. So let's continue reading. In verse 28, they replied, "Your servants, our father, is still alive and well." And they bowed down, prostrating themselves before him. As he looked about and saw his brother Benjamin, his own mother's son, he asked, "Is this your youngest brother, the one you told me about?" And he said, "God be gracious to you, my son." So you see why he asked that question, "Is this your youngest brother?" Because he recognized him and Benjamin are the only sons their mother, Rachel, who was the beloved wife of Jacob, had. She gave birth to Joseph first, and in giving birth to Benjamin, she passed away. So I see the reason Jacob bestowed that law he had for Rachel all unto Joseph and Benjamin. Since Joseph was the first son, and she got him, when she has advanced in age, because her elder sister was the one that was giving birth and their maid servants. She couldn't give birth in time. She gave birth lately to Joseph, and in giving birth to Benjamin, she passed away. It was so pathetic. So I see the reason Jacob, loved those two sons of Rachel. So in verse 30, deeply moved at the sight of his brother, Joseph hurried out and looked for a place to weep. He went into his private room and wept there. After he had washed his face, he came out and, controlling himself, said, "Serve the food." They served him by himself, the brothers by themselves, and the Egyptians who ate with him by themselves, because Egyptians could not eat with Hebrews, for that is detestable to Egyptians. Verse 33, the men had been seated before him in the order of their ages, from the firstborn to the youngest, and they looked at each other in astonishment. When portions were served to them from Joseph's table, Benjamin's portion was 5 times as much as anyone else. So they feasted and drank freely with him. And that was the end of Genesis chapter 43. But look at these two verses. In verse 33, he said Joseph's brothers were seated in front of him by their ages, from the eldest to the youngest. And he gave instruction that Benjamin should be served more food. According to the Bible's description, Benjamin alone has 5 portions of what the other brothers had. So this could have, rang something in their ears, in their why? Why is he paying so much attention to Benjamin? Why is he giving him more food, more than us? But I don't think none of them paid attention to that. But he was doing this all on purpose, because he knew Benjamin and him were from the same mother, and their father loved them equally. And so he has to show him that love. For so long he's been away from them, even though he hasn't yet disclosed to them who he was. But the time is coming. We will see that in the next videos. Thank you.